This video in particular, is where I really get to the meat of what brought me into the knowledge, information, um, and understanding of who I was with the Most High. Um, Basically, finding out through researching my heritage, my bloodlines, and my DNA to find out that I'm descended um, directly from one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Um, Bloodline Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Which particular patriarch, I have not been able to nail it down yet. I do have pretty much about four um, in which I have to finish continuing doing the research to see. Right now, I'm not really interested in going that much further into it. Um, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter at this point. And when it does, it'd be the Most High directing anything from that. So I'm just going to let you know what really brought me to this point in my life where, let's just say, I became a minister, and a lot of folks didn't know that. Uh, just to solidify the things, um, how things changed me throughout the military to be who I became now post military, and just dealing with my own mess, um, to finally just submit it all to the Most High, like fully, not halfway, not praying and ask for him to take everything and for me to just get right back up and pick my pack full of mess, worries, and anything else, um, to actually leave it all at his feet and submit to him, to follow him. So just to cap off, um, some of the things that I did in the military that kind of helped push me in this direction, um, because I didn't get a lot of help, um, a lot of good mentorship from my leaders. Um, I sought out mentors, um, but I also had to do a lot of reading. I had to learn NAV admins, directives, everything. I had to learn paperwork and how to move around within the paperwork to stay in my boundaries and also to protect myself. Um, so with that, for both for weapons recertification, because of the JAG investigation that I went through where I wound up exonerating myself, they told me that I should be helping them get their pubs together and make sure everybody else is on point as far as understanding the knowledge and showing the steps. So I helped my area pass recert with 100% recertification of weapons, so we could continue on building weapons without being shut down for rework or remediation. I just changed that over with how I did with weapons when I got into the corpsman field, and I wound up having the same problems wherever I went, in the hospitals. And so once they saw that I kind of understood protocol and admin and stuff, they allowed me to use that to help. And I helped my areas pass inspections 95% or better for JACO, MedIG, HIPAA. I helped them review and even change policies. And all my places went with high marks. Some of the jobs, and I'm gonna keep it brief, that I picked up and learned from was Typhoon Team Leader in Okinawa. Um, I was Command Training Team Leader. And so I was in charge of teaching code of conduct, ethics, Navy rights and responsibilities, disaster preparedness, through chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, environmental attacks, working with FEMA. So I was able to learn a lot. Some of the things I did as far as business was concerned was budgeting, multi-million-dollar accounts, surgical supply, built up a sports medicine clinic from the ground up in Camp Schwab in Okinawa, as a E4 that just newly came through school. I got a little bit of help, but I was able to complete it. The people were great that I work with, and we were able to do a good thing. And I was one of the first coming out of service schools and definitely with the group that I came with to get my FMF pin just within months of touching down in Okinawa, even after the program was completely revamped. So those were a few things that experiences that I learned from, things that I did. Same with saving lives during a civilian joint military and civilian operation, helping them with the city of SeaTac for the Seafair hydrofoil races. We saved probably about 3 lives in 2 years. I got a certificate for appreciation from the city. Should I or would I have got something from the command? Hey, the chief that was driving our boat drunk and destroyed part of the engine running over the logboom, he got the NAM for it. So you tell me. Anyway, basically, when I got down to Tennessee, I was going to drop off some stuff. Wind up having, let's say, I wind up having a cancer scare. So instead of just dropping off some furniture and giving some furniture away, I wound up having to stay down there and wound up staying a few years until they were able to figure out whether I had cancer or not. Thank the Most High I didn't. But meanwhile, I was still trying to reconcile the things that I dealt with in Iraq, some of the issues that were lingered from my military, and the issue that was within me with really pulling towards being a minister. With that being said, I was kind of reluctant to go back into the church, understanding about the Sabbath and seeing all the different discrepancies, unsure about what they were teaching as far as the 10 Commandments and things just not seeming right. So I had to start doing research for myself and studying to show myself approved. I had gotten into a lifestyle that I got comfortable and I feel like I was rocking myself to sleep, and I needed to get out of it. And the only way I could deal with the things that were going on in my life, I had to submit to God. So I submitted in my shed. We'll go out there and read and read the Bible, pray and fast. It wasn't everybody's business what I was doing. But I wasn't open with my spouse, and it could be some confusing signs and symptoms, in which I know I was probably showing. Either way, within all that fasting and praying, I was able to see a lot of things that were going on around me, from individuals that were stealing from me, from institutions that didn't treat me properly, from universal life insurance policy that I was using to reinvest in moving, to find out that the policy was never even started, even though I was given paperwork saying that it was, and that they said that the money was going to a non-escrow account. I wasn't building anything off of it, but it just went somewhere and never came back to me. How I never got a phone call or anything, and my number hadn't changed for like over 10 years, I don't know. But I had a lot of issues with that. And then with people that had been stealing from me all along, and I came across that a little bit later. And let's just say, going with my spirit, it was time for me to leave Tennessee. I didn't have good feelings about staying down there, or good, however you want to call it. Spiritually, I just didn't feel right about staying there, and I knew I needed to leave. And it was coming to Baltimore, getting re-involved in the church, dealing with the exact same things. Again, gatekeepers in front, not helping, not supporting, not really showing you anything, and just really showing a lot of confusion. Of course, I know now why they were doing it. One is spiritual blindness, and then two, there are some people that know through working with the occult, whether satanic worship, Mason, Eastern Stars, Boule, whatever, affiliations, they've learned who they believe the true God is, which is, Satan or Lucifer, which is obviously false. And because of that, I didn't trust going into a seminary, especially when I spoke to pastor about Hebrew words and reconciliation. He told me what I was talking about was a cult. It was completely wrong. So I started finding out there were books of the Bible that are not only taken up, but explain a lot more about what we were dealing with. And it was actually showing more of who was the bloodline Israel versus who they said those are Jews but are not Jews. Um, Between that, looking at my DNA, doing a family background on my forefathers, trying to figure out sins and things they got into, see how much that's relevant to the things that I was doing or got myself into. And it's when I came across and realized that, not only did I have Boule throughout my family, but I also had people that were in satanic worship and also high level, if you want to say 33, 33 degree Masons and high level Elks. You'd be surprised what you find when you look hard enough, or even things that be right there in front of your face the whole time. Pushing forward, I had already told a few people down in Tennessee what my intentions were, that I was fighting with myself to do what I felt God was calling me to do. I got suggestions and things that I need to clear up, basically get my house in order. And they were right on point with that. I need to get my house in order. I need to get myself together because I spent so much time trying to help out other people, family and friends, doing things for them, and I was ignoring my own issues. And I was hurting myself, and it was hurting my family doing that. So I had to get it together. Just started seeing things, started looking at things from Pastor Stephen Darby. May he rest in peace. Omar Tabo, Benaya Israel. I looked on sites like Thought Camera Action. I do a lot of online or distant learning. It's how I got through the military. Most of my stuff was distant learning. No, I don't have a bunch of degrees. I got certifications, and while in the military, the things they wouldn't allow me to do, they wouldn't let me get my master training specialist. I had to go to a school to get that, to show I was proficient in teaching. I've been teaching for well over 7-8 years. But because they were giving this school to chiefs and higher people that were getting out recently and were going to want to use them to turn over jobs, they gave it to them, even though it wasn't a passion for them. It's just something else I had to deal with. It's the same thing about, going to corpsman school and being a nurse. You go in the Army, whether you're an OR nurse or OR tech, you're actually going to go to school to be an LPN and be a licensed LPN. In the Navy, they didn't do that. Same thing with surgical tech. I was supposed to get the stuff in school, and out of the top 5 people that were highest on that test, they took 10 people and they didn't take me. And they made excuses, but let's just say it wasn't fair. So life ain't fair. No big deal. Study to find yourself approved. Like I said, I went through all the steps myself, and I finally came across a guy by the name of Big Judah online. He was showing that there was a lot of information in different books, and that's when he came across the Stick of Joseph Ben Hannah Ephraim, or the Book of Mormon, to find out that was the records of the 10 tribes, the Northern Kingdom. Once I understood that, and it kind of pushed me towards One Nation, One Power with Elder Ayel. That man teaches a bunch of truth and a bunch of history to go with it. The one thing that was always missing everywhere I went, including Bethel, and me here in Baltimore, as far as information, they did not teach history to go along with biblical history to show side by side where everything was. So, and again, while doing all of this is when I finally, I started looking at my blood. I wanted to get the curses off of my family line, starting with my family, my wife, and my children. And I had to figure out where things were on both sides of our family. And like I said, on my side, I got no problem speaking for what I knew. These are things that I dealt with growing up, from a dissociated memory that someone had been doing satanic rituals around me, seances and, the full rituals, and even had supernatural things going on around me, that I wound up telling a family member, and they basically told me to be quiet. They didn't believe me, and not to say that. So I started at that point when things would happen around me. I just didn't tell everybody. And the only people that I really could confide in, and to be honest, the one person I could confide in was my grandmother, Leona. She listened to everything. And not only that, not only she tell me straight on what she thought, when I asked her questions, she didn't beat around the bush. Either she answered it Well, she didn't. And let's just say 9 times out of 10, everything I asked my grandmother, she told me. So I knew a lot more than a lot of people knew, and I just never cared to put on for it. A couple of things that I read before, like the 48 laws of power, that says enough. So you don't tell everybody everything you know. You don't have to put yourself out there. And to me, really, that's being arrogant. If I got to sit around and tell everybody every single thing I've ever done in life just to get some sort of recognition, then do I need that? Um, anyway, I found out what I was. I found out that I'm an Israelite by blood. I found out who's been faking, who's not. Um, it is kind of ironic that I live in a town that was nicknamed Jewtown while I was a kid, um, because of Jewish folks. Thing is, we all been lied to. Not just some of them, or most of them, who were in a religion, and converted Europeans over to a religion of Judaism. Um, Same as the Negroes. Like we never knew anything, and then when you realize it now, instead of being pissed off at what people have done to you, you got to think, man, our ancestors betrayed Christ. We're paying for their sins, and then we're doing some of the things that they've done, even some more vile and wicked than they did. So we're no better to pass judgment on anybody. Like I already said, my family is huge. I've been getting in touch with everybody, back channel that I don't already know. But I got folks that's just as white as the next European. I got English and Nova Scotian. I got Native American. Either way, I love everybody. And from here on out, my only thing is repent, return back to Christ. Follow those laws, statutes, commandments, and feasts.